The views and opinions expressed on Smack My Pitch Up are those of the panelists and not that of the GUI Media Network or associated brands and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is rated R for violence, language, and nudity, because clothing is a prison and society will not cage me.
In a world with too many reboots and remakes,
two men will stop at nothing to make it even worse. This is Smack My Pitch Up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Smack My Pitch Up, the podcast that reboots, remakes, reimagines, sequels, cycles, and adapts some of your favorite and least favorite properties from everywhere, from whatever we want, basically.
All your favorite things.
All your favorite things.
All our favorite things.
Basically, yeah. And tonight, we are going to be talking about a 1990s classic. I thought that this was the 80s that this movie came out, but apparently
It's close enough.
It
is on the
dot.
cusp.
Yeah, it's on the dot. With me, of course, as always, Thandi is here.
Hey, kids, nobody put Spooky in the corner. That's the wrong movie. I don't know.
Also, that's like, I was talking with Amy the other night about, the thing that you pour shots into to pour into a glass when mixing is called the jigger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm never going to say that in a mix. It's just too close. It's completely fine and appropriate and totally okay, but it's too close. That's like you saying spooky when talking about ghosts. Not going with that word. Just not gonna.
I think you're okay if you call it a jigga.
Still not gonna. Nope. I think I'm good.
You're not.
No. I was not looking for a free pass.
You're
so
sing that Jay-Z. I was singing Jay-Z, and that's yeah.
That is. I have heard that excuse in the wild before. I'm just singing the song. That's not how that works.
It's called jigga. Yes? No?
No?
Guns? Yes. Okay. I deserve it. Bye-bye.
Bye. We could do a Jay-Z biopic at one point, but no, we are eventually. Yeah, we are talking about a film that features the Swayze.
The Swayze, and one Miss Demi Moore as well. This was an experience. I'd never seen the movie before, so this was an experience for me.
It is one of those movies that I definitely think you're going to have a more positive feeling about it if you experienced it closer to when it came out. If there's some nostalgia built into it.
Yeah, I think so. You know, Patrick Swayze is an odd star. I like Patrick Swayze. Of course I do. He's from my era, but he's an odd star with his whole aesthetic, his hair, his face. He's a little dancer man.
See, that is a thing that I've always felt with him that was always weird for me, is that nothing about the characters that he's portrayed suggests to me that he's a tough guy. Even in Roadhouse, it's like he's ready to dance fight anyone at any moment. It's not.
Yes.
It's not like this big bruiser that he looks like he's gonna hey, and then do some flowery dance and spin before he tries to throw.
Yeah, he could maybe challenge Michael Jackson in the Beat It video.
Right,
he'd be like the other gang leader.
Right, yeah. There's nothing kind of bruiser about him at all. So the fact that he got put into those roles, in the 80s and 90s, not just a few. Not he wasn't an action star or anything, but very strange to me.
Yeah. But I do fully understand the draw. I fully understand the draw. Another odd thing for me is that I remember Demi Moore as being a sex symbol, as being one of the most beautiful women of her time. And she is very beautiful. She looks like somebody I would have crushed on hard in that era. But I made the mistake of watching the Ben Affleck Ana de Armas vehicle before I watched this movie, before I watched Ghost.
Oh.
I watched Deep Water, and they're modern sexy. And purposely modern sexy in the movie. They portray sexy. And then I see Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze, and I'm like, oh, they're like regular people from their era sexy, and it's not the same at all.
No, it really isn't. It does not translate, and especially the feathered hair. I'm talking about Swayze. Demi Moore's hair, not feathered at all. She's got a boy cut in this thing.
Which is cute.
She's working it.
Yeah.
She actually is working that haircut pretty well, but Swayze, floweriest hair that any accountant should ever have.
That was his thing.
It was totally
that was his thing. That's how he did 80s, 90s guy. So I'm not hating it, but yes, it is very period specific.
Very, very much. And also, the one thing that I thought was interesting, and I found a pretty easy workaround that is actually just hitting the mark a little harder with Oda Mae, as far as like her being like a seer of things. Yeah. There's some. It's not as bad as a lot of the stuff from that era could have been.
It is uncomfortable.
It is a little uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
There's ways of kind of still keeping to the script on that, but just hitting that mark a little closer of just like, yeah, I'm conning people. Like I'm putting on a fake, almost cartoonish kind of vibe to my character.
Yeah.
And if you make it that, she's suckering people out of their money by leaning into their, prejudices, then that is a pretty safe way of still having that.
Yes.
Yes. That's how I ended up kind of going about it. But
there was a take where I would have done that too. The first person, before we talk about our castings, the first person that came to mind for this project beyond anybody else was actually Leslie Jones. I did not use Leslie Jones, but what Whoopi was doing as far as a modern take on that,
very much.
Leslie Jones is the person that closest resembles what Whoopi's doing in that movie.
Absolutely. It's the like loud black friend role from that era.
Yeah.
Very much. And what's very weird is that there was one scene I rewatched for this episode that there's even like an inflection that she's doing in parts of this that feels very Axel Foley in the way that she's delivering some lines.
Yes.
Which is
I noticed that in the bank, yeah.
Yeah, and in the bank, it's very bizarre that she's hitting some like Eddie Murphy kind of inflections at one point. And I'm going, is this just like
it's a studio note. We people like Eddie Murphy. do some Eddie Murphy. But I'm a woman. Yeah. So like, just do some Eddie Murphy,
like Eddie Murphy, but in a wig. Yeah, do that instead. Yeah, it caught me very much off guard. I didn't remember that at all, like as a thing. But
so rolling back into this, as I've never seen the movie before, do you like this movie? I have Ghost.
I have nostalgia for it that is built in that makes me have more of an appreciation for this film than I think it deserves. I have watched this film with people that did not watch it as a kid. So I do have the experience of watching it through the eyes of somebody that, saw it as a full adult in like modern era and gone like, so that's a movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of very interesting choices this film takes. And some, I wouldn't say liked. I do have some nostalgic connection to it.
So when I chose Ghost, I was thinking, it's a 90s movie. It'll be a breezy 90 minutes, whatever it is, and it won't matter, but it's not. It's like 2 hours and 7 minutes, and it feels every bit of 2 hours and 7 minutes for me. I didn't hate it. Did not hate my experience with it, but yeah.
It is definitely a product of its time in that it's trying to hit a couple different tones at the same time, one of which, in 1990, that is like the heyday of the sexy thriller.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is when it was all going down. So Ghost was trying to hit some of those notes in this film of being like, there's a guy in the house and he's got a knife and he's watching her undress and he saw everything.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Like, is this movie, it's a dramedy thriller, but it's like, so there's heavy comedy tones, but there's also like the threat of rape at some point. And there's like the tone, and this is what movies did at a certain point in time. They were to entertain a broader audience. They weren't so niched into like specific areas of entertainment or whatever. So I do understand that, but it did strike me a little cockeyed.
It gets gruesome at points. I mean, the way that the climax occurs in this film is like straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah, the way people go to hell generally.
Yeah, it's a lot. And to think that earlier in this film, it's got Whoopi Goldberg talking to nobody, just being woo.
Yeah, doing her Whoopi
thing and just having a good old time with Patrick Swayze being like, no, that's not what I said. Let me move this penny. And just wackadoo stuff. And then there's just fucking murder, gruesome, like cut in half with a pane of glass, crazy murder hell scene. There's the Puerto Rican killer guy, noops on Demi Moore, and then is criminal element character that somehow the friend, Carl, knows. Like, how does he know this guy? Like, do they go to the same bar, same barber?
Yeah, I did not like the use of race in the movie. Like, the minorities in the movie are all, like, villains.
Yeah.
or like, Oda Mae having a criminal record going back 20 plus years or whatever. Yeah.
I tried to diversify the cast a little bit more just so that it didn't lay on those lines like it was a fucking Power Rangers movie, I know we've discussed that before, but when the character's name is Willie Lopez, your choices are kind of limited on unless you change the name, but I know I could have.
Yeah.
Let's get into it because I'm kind of interested to see how we approach this. It's not by any stretch the most problematic movie that I've run into.
Oh, no. It's not really problematic. It's a product of its time.
Sure.
It's not it's trying to be offensive because it's going to give me a laugh or, F those whatever people that we hate in this period of time. It's not that. It's just a product of its time.
That it's so glaring looking at it through the modern lens and just being like, wow, it's fine. Like, nobody's coming after the director or anything of Ghost now for this movie. But so with your version, are you modernizing it? You doing a 1990 period piece? Are you?
So for my commercial version, I am doing a straight remake.
Okay.
It's a modern film. I'm updating a few of the elements to be more modern and changing some elements that I personally found off-putting to make them more palatable for a modern audience and myself.
A similar kind of thing for me too.
But the script is going to be pretty much the same.
Okay. The beats of the script for me are going to be relatively similar. Is the basic bones of the story are going to be there. It's going to be modern.
Yep.
And yeah, like you said, there's certain aspects of the plot that I didn't really feel were necessary to lean on the way that they did with certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going a slightly different route with it. But yeah, the bones are still the same.
Nice.
I reskinned it, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yes, that is functionally what we're working with on this side too.
So for yours, what are we looking at? Like, which part of tone that the first movie had are you picking out to use? Are you doing like 8 different tones?
So no, I had a lot of trouble with that. Like as far as what I wanted for the tone, and so it's going to be a dramedy as well. And I still haven't decided how much it's leaning into the drama versus the comedy, because in the 1990s dramedy, it's a serious movie with like this disparate comedic element kind of thrown on top of it, and it would be more holistic in the modern time as a dramedy that the comedy would be more throughout the piece than it was in the 90s.
Sure.
But
okay.
So I'm leaning towards dramatic comedy.
Okay. I'm going a similar route, actually, where there is no nuance to the comedy elements and the drama elements in the original, whereas there are some directors nowadays that are really finding a great way to have that balance in very different ways of drama and comedy and how they play with one another, like really dark comedies or really funny dramas, and I think I picked an interesting choice for the tone and the director for my take, just thinking about how you incorporate that dramatic element and that comedic element in a modern tone without losing the kind of the spirit of the story. Yeah. Do you want to go or do you want?
Sure, I'll go first. As I said, it's a modern film hitting a lot of the same story beats, just focusing on some actor changes. For Patrick Swayze's character, Sam Wheat, we have, and this was a thing for me because this feeds into the idea of, am I casting for a comedy or a drama? So originally I had gone with, what's his face, the lead from Dune, the dad lead.
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac was going to be my lead because on the dramatic side, he had, like, I could see his scenes, the kind of intensity, emotional intensity that I wanted. I could see Oscar Isaac's scenes. Mm-hmm. But as I start doing the rest of the cast, I was like, man, I want this thing, but I want to have people fall in line more age-wise. Oscar Isaac's not a whole lot older than the rest of the cast, but he does kind of portray older. because of his intensity as a real actor. So I did not go with Oscar Isaac. For my Sam, I'm going with Chris Hemsworth.
Okay.
The modern Patrick Swayze.
And
so my thing with Chris Hemsworth is that Chris Hemsworth, for whatever reason, is not a romantic lead. I don't know why. He's beautiful. He's super charming, but he just has not been used as a romantic lead. So I'd be curious to see him as a romantic lead under these circumstances. I think he'd work pretty well if we lean more into the comedy aspect of it for his character. Because Patrick Swayze did get some comedy out of him being a ghost as well, so...
True. And Chris Hemsworth has a great sense of humor. He's really able to work that in, especially playing it straight.
Yeah.
Not doing the goofy thing. I call it the Leslie Nielsen effect, where the funniest that he ever was when
being the complete straight man in ridiculous situation. Yeah.
And then when they went into like the Naked Gun movies from Police Squad, great. Naked Gun movies where he started like hamming at the camera and really leaning into the comedy, it lost all the effect that it had previously had. Chris Hemsworth similarly is that he's got more range than Leslie Nielsen did, I think. But when he plays it straight is when he's the funniest, I think. But even though he can ham it up on the camera and still kind of get good. But.
And I think he's good. He's good. He's not Oscar Isaac. They do two different things.
Sure.
They satisfy two different areas of
Very
acting
much.
in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I think that Chris Hemsworth is going to be my Sam. For Molly Jensen, who was Demi Moore in the original, I'm going with, and this is because she struck me fairly recently, Ana de Armas. Molly Jensen in the original is a pretty face. Somebody that you can sympathize with because she's beautiful and longing for this loss. And I would like her to do more in this remake than just be the victim longing for this loss.
Sure.
But the biggest draw is that she is a pretty face who you empathize with because you see her and you're smitten. So Ana de Armas is my Molly Jensen. Carl Brunner, who is ultimately the villain of the piece. He's Sam's best friend who turns out to have been the one who contracted the murder. Was played by Tony Goldwyn in the original. In this remake, I was just looking through who has a villainous face, and I'm looking through villainous faces, and my villainous face is Dave Franco.
I mean, it's pretty on the nose, but
yeah, Dave Franco has a vibe that I think works well for this movie, and I could see him and Chris Hemsworth palling around beforehand. I think that they would have some fun playing off.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Oda Mae is no longer Oda Mae. She's just Mae.
Solid choice. Yeah.
So Oda Mae Brown was played by Whoopi Goldberg. She was a shyster and a con man, a con person, a grifter who was a spiritualist who found out that she was actually a spiritualist. She had a family history of being able to do this, and she didn't know that she could. She found out that she could. Boom. Did not like certain aspects of the character, so I am still replacing her with somebody who can give Whoopi vibes, who can kind of have Whoopi energy, but who's not doing that. I'm going with Ego Nwodum from SNL.
That was one of my shortlist choices for this character. Great actress. Yeah. She's good comedy timing. She's
got good comic timing. I think she would be good for this. And she does a principal character, so she's going to be a vice principal in this. And then we can have some of the comedy take place as Chris kind of messes with her, or Sam messes with her in her school. But all of the verbose spiritualist aspect, like she can still have a family history of being able to see spirits or whatever, that she's just finding out that she can do. But all the con man stuff is not going to be part of this story for her character. And Willie Lopez, kind of fortunate. This movie does not really have a lot of key characters, so it was kind of easy to do a search and see exactly what I wanted to work with here. But for Willie Lopez, in the remake, I'm replacing Willie Lopez with the white guy, because he's a villain.
Solid.
So I feel like it's better to, under these circumstances, to do that. And I'm replacing Willie Lopez with Billy Larson. And Billy Larson is the criminal who shoots Sam and who looks villainous and is creepy, and who, I don't know if I would have that implied sexual assault scene or so, but there would be a scene of violence or whatever in there. And my Willie Lopez, or Billy Larson, is played by Bill Skarsgård, who is Pennywise the clown.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a big old creep.
Yeah, he's a creepy.
Pile of creepy.
All the Skarsgårds are a little creepy, even the handsome one.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit creepy.
Like, even the handsome one is like creepy, but also ooh, like I like to be scared a little, kind of sexy.
Oh, Tarzan, swing me. I have.
Oh fuck! I forgot he played Tarzan.
Yeah, he and Sam Jackson did a movie together where he was Tarzan. Yeah,
that's upsetting.
Not a core character, but something I noticed is that Stephen Root is in this movie. Stephen Root is the police officer.
Yep. And
I was like, wow, it's Stephen Root. So the police officer, just kind of a cameo scene, will be played by Stephen Root again. It'll just be
great.
Yeah.
That's your cohesive, the connective tissue to the original is Stephen Root.
We're bringing Stephen Root back.
That's great.
You gotta love Stephen Root. Come on.
You gotta love Stephen Root.
My last character of significance is the Subway Ghost.
You gotta do the Subway Ghost.
Who was played by Vincent Schiavelli in the original movie.
Great character actor.
He was in a lot of stuff.
Playing basically the same character every time.
The thing that I remember his face in the most, I think, was Batman Returns. He was the trainman for that kidnapped the children.
Yep.
Yeah. But he was just in a lot of stuff as a character actor, it's that guy. In my movie, he will be played by... And I had a crisis here because, once again, I didn't know how far into comedy I wanted to go. But I was like, let's see, Crazy New York Man. Tracy Morgan? And I thought about Tracy Morgan for a while, but I don't like Tracy Morgan. But I thought he would be perfect depending on how far into goofy comedy I went. But then when I pegged a director, Tracy Morgan kind of fell by the wayside.
I got you.
So my Subway Ghost is Joey Pants, Joey Pantoliano, or Pantoliano. Joey Pantoliano. He was Cypher in Matrix.
Yeah.
He's the police captain in the Bad Boys movies. He's been in a lot of stuff.
He's been in every movie.
Bound.
Yeah.
He was on.
I forgot he was in Bound. Yeah.
He was on The Sopranos. Just lots of stuff.
Yep.
And I like him as an actor. And I think he works well comedically, but also he's threatening enough that he would work well as the Subway Ghost. And the big reason that I chose him beyond the fact that he's good in the role is that my director is Lana Wachowski.
Oh, wow.
My director. And the reason that I went with her is because the Wachowskis have like this really corny, sappy idea about what love is that they like to as a through line in their movies. But because this movie's about ghosts, and at the time it had I remember that subway car jumping scene in all like the Entertainment Tonight stuff is like, this is the next level of special effects. And so they could do some really interesting things visually with that movie. Or not just Lana, but Lana could really pep up that movie visually so it would be exciting on both the emotional end and the spectacle end. I think she'd be a good fit for that movie. Now, there's a few notes that I wanted to make in the production of this movie, because there's some things I changed in here. One is the theme song, Unchained Melody, was, I guess, a throwback to... It was written in 55, but it was popular, I think, in 65 or whatever. But I wanted an older song to be like the theme of the movie, but that was corny, but maybe fit with a more modern generation. And I know this song has been used in movies before. I know it has, but I didn't look to see what they were because I didn't care.
Uptown Funk.
So for the scene, let's set the stage.
Subjective.
Let's set the stage. I took out the clay pot scene because it's gross. I hate that scene. Like they're doing it, and it's like they're playing with poop, and then they've got this scat thing going on with poop all the way up their arms, and then the scene transitions, and the song is diegetic, but somehow it's still playing, as they are completely clean and like making out in the living room. And I just wanted to like see a transition to them washing their hand, just wash it off because it's gross.
They're like making out. They're like, okay, no, we got to wash it off first. And then taking turns in the shower, getting it all off.
So I replaced that with washing dishes. She's washing dishes, lots of soap suds, more soap suds than you need, so they can have like a tactile visual thing going on.
He like lovingly puts a foamy beard on her. Little mustache.
He's like, you'd make a beautiful dude.
Yeah.
But I replaced Unchained Melody with Coldplay's Yellow.
Wow.
So the theme of the movie is yellow. Something else that I replaced was his irritating song, Henry VIII.
Yeah.
That probably had more recognition in 1990, not so much today. I wanted to replace it with an older pop song that was also obnoxious. So it's either Gangnam Style. He starts singing Gangnam Style, and at first she's like, oh, that's funny and charming, and then it's like hours later, and he's still like doing the Gangnam Style dance and like the whipping the arm, and she can't, she's dying. So it was either going to be Gangnam Style or Thong Song, but I think Gangnam Style is the more
like you got I didn't think about that song, but that's a brilliant idea. Is that there are so many songs that fit that doesn't have to be Henry VIII. You got Thong Song, Gangnam Style, Who Let the Dogs Out, Mambo Number 5.
Yeah,
I mean there's so many of those. Like you could do the
Mambo Number 5 was actually what I was trying to think of. It did not come to mind. But yeah,
I'm stealing that idea and I'm putting in Len's "Steal My Sunshine" as for mine.
Hells yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to update just a few aspects to make it more vibe with maybe not even like a thoroughly modern audience, like 20-somethings, but like with us as an audience going to see the movie. And I think that those changes will work for that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That's that's something that I wanted to touch on in definitely a different way that I went. But the idea of this being something that had decent special effects, that you wanted to have some kind of conversation about this being a relationship between a literal spirit and a living being. And then there are elements where there are things that Swayze can see that nobody else can see because he's dead. People, like lights, demons, all sorts of shit. So you need somebody that can play in that space of having green screen, doing special effects, playing with the supernatural a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that Lana would kill that part of it. One more change I wanted to see, and this is a small one or big if you were in 1990, but the scene where Swayze takes over Odame's body, and he and Demi have that moment. I just want to see the ladies. I want, like, maybe the eye color can change on Ego to show that she's possessed or whatever, but I just want to see the ladies. And it's not making out. It's not. It's just the caress, the intimacy.
Intimacy, yeah.
Yeah. I want to see that as the ladies, not as like what she's seeing, I guess, is Chris or whatever.
Spectral. Yeah. I agree. It really just, I think the eye color change too is a really good choice. There's so many minimal CGI effects you can do that you don't really understand what they did to make the scene feel different, but it gives it some almost spooky element, to use a term I'm uncomfortable with. And they can put it through a lens. They can create like smoky effects. They can do all sorts of stuff to make it feel different than they look normally.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have just the floaty ghost character over top. Yeah. So I definitely wanted to have something that played with the supernatural elements a little bit more. The balance between drama and comedy is really difficult. The adapting it to a modern turn versus how it is in the original. And I thought that there's been some success with having like a dark drama with comedic elements when going into like the very indie approach to a story, where you're having some very weird, kind of completely insane approaches to how people are experiencing not so normal moments in their lives. So I'm having just very almost gross elements that come along with Sam being part of this, this post-life purgatory that he's existing in, but also some incredibly beautiful moments in it as well. that he sees like the world with all the set dressing ripped away. You know, it's like the bones of
nice
our world.
Sees the scaffolding and the struts and
kind of, and also with people as well, is that like there's a gruesomeness to being in between worlds, but there's also kind of a beauty at the same time if you look deep enough, and that's what he has to connect to in order to be able to have any kind of physical interaction with the material world. Is that he has to basically embrace the kind of skeletal makings of his current existence in order to interact with the reality of the material world.
Yeah, they kind of tried to literally show some of that in the original movie when he's like passing through people and you see the blood vessels and the
Yeah, so there's a little bit more of that, like from his perspective, everything's really pretty intense and gross.
That guy has to poop.
Yeah, right. Kind of a little bit. And just that there's almost like a moistness to the world that just didn't exist in the real world. And so everything just feels kind of like humid and wet and just
see that's grossing some people out, but people can't see right now I'm unbuttoning my shirt, so I'm down for it.
I like that you're method podcasting right now and actually unbuttoning. Yeah. So for mine, I did want to have comedic actors that either have or I believe really would be able to nail like more dramatic moments, so that when it goes into like the weird and the silly, they're going to have the ability to do that in the context better than like a dramatic actor trying to be zany, you know? Yeah. So what do they say is like, if you can do anything if you can do comedy.
Yeah.
So you got to lean on the comedic actors to be dramatic, because dramatic actors can't always, or actually, honestly, rarely can hit those comedic.
Well, the comedic actors hypothetically have the pain that can drive those other kinds of scenes.
Absolutely. So for Sam, actor that who doesn't love him? He's amazing. And he's so funny. But also, I have not seen him in enough dramatic roles, and I almost guarantee he would just absolutely massacre a truly dramatic role, is Kumail Nanjiani.
Oh, yeah.
He would do so good. And so just being able to like lean in a little bit with being like too busy with his work to pay attention to life, you know, and his partner, and he's too kind of stuck in his role. Sam in the original was definitely kind of stuffier than Demi Moore was. Yeah. So to have Kumail like starting off that way as being just like, you know, exec, just doing the exec thing, and then just being stuffed into this like very weird, wet world.
I can definitely see Kumail playing uptight, because I feel like I've seen him play uptight. It's a different kind of uptight.
It's a funny uptight that he's played before. Yeah. But like before he really hit it big, he was playing minor roles as the, like, you have to fill out this form guy, you know? Yeah, definitely. But yeah, him just being somebody that is too much of a workaholic to be able to properly take a moment and smell the roses and appreciate what he has and pay attention. And that's why the ditto is more of like, not so much that he's scared to say I love you, but he never takes the moment to appreciate those like sweet moments between partners. You know, it's more of like him poring over papers and going like, oh, ditto. Yeah. You know, just it's him not taking the time. So I think he would have a lot of fun with the role. And I'd just be really interested to see kind of that arc of the character from paper pushing workaholic to being somebody that can stop and smell the roses, even if they're kind of wet and gross.
Yeah, I could definitely see him in that role. Did you see The Big Sick?
Yes. Yeah. That's such a good movie. And even though that was definitely funny, very funny.
But it's about him and his feelings as well.
And
so
he did a fantastic job in that. And the one trajectory that I wanted for both characters, like you were saying with the original, that Molly didn't really have an arc per se, was just there to be like the focal point of the plot and you know, the wantings of men. I wanted there to be this conversation of that, like, Sam is learning how to like see the world for the first time, really like stop what he's doing and actually look around and see the world and its beauty. Even if in its ugliness, there's beauty. And that's something that Molly was always able to see, that she's an artist. She lived in that world, but she never really made any money at her art because she never had like the motivation to look at the business side,
the commercial part of it.
The commercial part of it is that, she thought just making art was enough. And it's like, more people are going to get to see it if you put it out there for people, you know? And so that what is important just to make the art and nobody see it, then it doesn't exist in the first place. It's that art exists because we have witness to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like that's something that most artists have to grow out of. So that's a pretty organic plot point right there.
Yeah. So it's her kind of like almost learning to put herself out there as an artist, and like that, claiming that, not just doing it, but actually claiming that role as an artist, which I know how hard that is for creative types to really claim that. Like, I am this, instead of this is something I do on the side.
Yeah.
And so as she's taking herself a little bit more seriously, he's learning to take himself a little less seriously. So they're kind of like ships passing in the night in the story, as she's starting to like become like a fully fleshed out, realized person, able to be motivated and do something with her talents. And he's learning how to let go of his.
Yeah, I dig that tremendously, but you got me on pins and needles. Who you got?
For Molly Jensen, I wanted somebody that I think would be able to play off of Sam relatively well, would be able to bring his silly out a little bit in those private moments before he dies. But also somebody that I've seen do dramatic and could really kill it. And also is somebody that has worked or with the directors that we'll get into shortly before. I went with Jenny Slate.
Oh, nice. I don't feel like I've seen her in a lot of stuff lately.
She was actually recently in I Want You Back. She was in with Charlie Day. It's a new romantic comedy on Amazon that just dropped about, it's kind of strangers on a train, but instead of killing the husband and wife or whatever, it's them trying to ruin the relationships that their exes are in so that the exes will come back to them.
Huh.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought that out of the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia gang, Charlie Day would be the one to do major motion pictures?
Right? Yeah, he's the one that broke out of all of them, yeah. So, but, I mean, he's lovable.
Yeah, he definitely is.
That's what it comes down to. And also, I think it was, but part of my thought process with that is that I've seen Jenny Slate in a number of roles, dramatic and non-dramatic, but also she did this, like, late night show thing where she did a lie detector. And she was so legitimately riddled with anxiety that I saw, like, she was like almost crying at one point because she was so, and they didn't ask her anything that was like scary.
What are they going to reveal? Nothing about Chris Evans or.
It's just that she's got like an anxiety thing for sure in her day-to-day life, that seeing that translating into grief and the anxiety you feel after losing somebody so important in your life and stuff, I could see her just really connecting in some way with her own challenges with anxiety and being able to really push that forward and be like a really dramatic and kind of intense moment.
Yeah, nice pull.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I like the expanding of the actor pool. You know, it's hard if you've never done this exercise. It is hard to pull in new people. So. It
is, because there's so many actors that are just like the old faithful that you could throw in and put anywhere that you want. And you don't want to do that every episode because then it gets boring. Not every role needs to go to like 4 actors. So
yes, Hollywood, not every role needs to go to 4 actors.
Yeah. But this next role, Oda Mae, was a challenge for me. And part of that was just how the character was represented on the screen was the big thing. Is that I wanted there to be not such a deviation from the original film that it felt like almost a different story arc, but also understanding that the way that things were handled in 1990 are different than they were handled now. And I think the element that I used to really change the way the character was represented without changing too much was taking an actress as talented as Issa Rae to play Oda Mae. And then the angle of the character is that, yeah, she is like conning people out of money, but it's like the lay of the land of it's like bougie white folks that she's taking advantage of. And then using that as kind of a difference of perspective with her and Sam through the remainder of the series is that they come from entirely different backgrounds and they're both represented relatively well. It's instead of Oda Mae doing like the in the bank doing the Eddie Murphy impression kind of stuff, she's Mae. She's just Mae, and her siblings that are in there with her, like doing the con art stuff and everything like that. want to be actors. That's where they come from, but they just kind of found themselves in this circumstance.
Perfect.
And she's got sisters that are trying out for actual acting roles and stuff. That's the kind of dynamic that they're coming from, instead of like the con artist family thing.
They didn't really present much information about her sisters, so they were just background characters in the original one.
Yeah, I'd want at least like her and at least like one of her sisters, like basically being adult roommate siblings.
Be nice to flesh that out a little bit
more.
And she would work well with Kumail because they've done a movie together.
Exactly, they did the Lovebirds together, and though it wasn't my favorite movie, I think both of them are great actors. I think the material wasn't really fleshed out well enough for me.
Yeah,
on that movie, but. I think it would be fun to see their interactions with one another, Kumail and Issa, just going at each other. And
definitely, I think that would be a lot of fun.
As far as like the letting go aspect of things from Kumail's character, to see, this is somebody that has been relatively successful his whole life and came from like a better off family.
Mm-hmm.
See another side to society of happy in spite of how much struggle there is, and literally having to con people out of money in order to get by, and still not being as picky or weird about stuff as he was in his life as a banker. It's that old trope in film. It's like the poor people teach the real rich people how to live kind of thing.
A little 48 hours action.
Kind of, yeah.
Or not trading places.
Trading
rather.
places, yeah.
Trading places
a little bit of just like, sometimes not having stuff is what allows you the opportunity to be able to look around and appreciate what you have. So yeah, I think that would be an interesting dynamic between the two of them. Then we got Carl, the bad guy. And I wanted to definitely go classic, like 1990 banker vibe for this character, slick back hair, the whole deal. And somebody that I've seen recently play a pretty maniacal character in a very fun manner. And it was a lot of fun to watch. I went with Sebastian Stan.
Oh, yeah, I could definitely 100% see Sebastian Stan as that guy.
And taking that turn, too, as into the bad guy. I think he could do a really good job with that. And yeah, if you haven't seen Fresh, it's a solid horror flick. It's not, it's not treading any new ground, really, for the most part, but it is a fun ride. And he plays this crazy killer person. I don't want to give too much away of the plot, but yeah, he's a very charismatic, crazed killer.
Did you see any of Pam and Tommy?
We watched the whole thing, and talk about a tonal shift. Holy shit. You've got like Seth Rogen in a mullet as a contractor with little short shorts, and you're like, okay, this is amazing. I'm into this. It's got Nick Offerman as this like drug addict porn guy, like porn director guy. And you're like, I'm so fucking into this.
Sure,
this
why
great.
not?
And then like 3 or 4 episodes in, just
boom.
Yeah, it's so much tragedy, and you're feeling so bad about yourself and the circumstances and society.
Oh yeah, and a talking dick.
Mantzoukas, I think, voiced the dick.
Oh, I didn't know who it was.
Yeah, I think it was Jason Mantzoukas that voiced the dick, which of course he did. Imagine making that phone call, like, Jason, hey, we have a small voice role.
It's like a VO role.
I think you'll appreciate it. It's going to be a fun time. Real quick deal. You're going to be playing Tommy Lee's dick. And he probably squealed with delight at that point into the phone. Like, yes, I would do that for free. So, Sebastian Stan for Carl. Then Willie. Yeah, the challenge that I run into a lot of the times is that I don't want to remove representation sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
If I can change the way that it is being shown on screen.
Definitely.
So
if you can make him a genuine character.
Yeah. And with Willie, I think that was all available. All the tools were there and available in the original film, but they just didn't take the extra beat to inform it with another line or two. If Carl has something over him, or somebody in Willie's family, a fraud thing that his cousin did, or some kind of motivation that makes Willie unwillingly an accomplice to this situation. And he doesn't have a way out. And so you really reinforced Carl being this true villain and Willie being a victim of circumstance.
Yeah, and that's something that I think in the original movie they could have done earlier to establish Carl's villainy. So yeah.
Yeah. And for this, The problem with this actor is too good for this small of a role, which is sometimes what you run into with these smaller parts. But for Willie Lopez, I got Gael Garcia Bernal, who was in Old, the Shyamalan flick. Also the Motorcycle Diaries and Y Tu Mama Tambien. So incredible actor that doesn't deserve to be in such a small role. But I think especially when you're trying to inform the character in such quick succession, that you have very little to work with, like not a lot of landing strip for that to be discussed. You need somebody that's really going to be able to explain a lot in very little. And he's such a fantastic actor, he would be able to pull that off. So,
definitely.
And then finally, my subway ghost. This was informed entirely by this actor having worked with the directors before, but also because of the Batman. Is I thought it would be a lot of fun to see what Paul Dano would do as the subway ghost, just rolling around and
we just got to see him as the creepy, crazy guy. So.
Yeah, so just letting him have even more room to play as like the fully unhinged ghost person. That and also because he's such a brilliant actor, there would be so much more that he would bring to that role. It wouldn't be just like this loud, yelly guy that's a ghost. There would be like that. This is somebody that before they died had mental health problems that they were running into. And then like, how does that translate to the afterlife that you're seeing things, but like maybe you saw things before you died. And so after you died, it's almost like, haha, I was right. You know, that how do you translate that?
Paul Dano's great because he has the dude is fully an adult now. He has permanent school shooter energy.
No, he does. He really does. It's so weird. But he, especially those glasses, and I know they were the same glasses that were worn in by Riddler or Enigma in the earlier Batman movie with Jim Carrey played him. They use the same glasses as like an homage to that. But when Dano wears them, it's very much got serial killer like shooter vibes.
Yeah, that is just his energy.
Oof. But I think he would have a lot of fun. It's a small role, but man, would he have a whole hog good time. Unleashing as the subway ghost. So, and the tone that I'm going for is these are the directors of Swiss Army Man. And additionally, they are
some Paul Dano, right?
Paul Dano. And also they are the directors of a film coming out that I'm very excited about, starring Michelle Yeoh, called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I'm also very excited to see that.
The trailer looks incredible. It's like a multiverse kind of thing happening.
Yeah.
It looks very fun, very trippy. And that's what I really wanted with both Swiss Army Man and Everything Everywhere All at Once. There's this, it's a drama that has this like kind of almost comedic level of weirdness that happens in these dramatic scenes. That's where the comedy comes from, is just the absurdity of the circumstances. So if you can have Sam lamenting, him being dead, but there's like weird squash noises as ghosts are walking by him in this like damp after purgatory thing. There's the element, the surroundings and the circumstances are what informs the comedy, as opposed to people being like slap-a-dap-a-doo. Everybody else is playing it relatively straight, but playing it straight in absurd circumstances is sometimes the funniest humor. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with it.
Being the Tim Meadows of the circumstance.
Yeah, right. And that's Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert are the two directors that did Swiss Army Man and Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I have not seen the entirety of I have seen Swiss Army Man. I did see the entirety of Swiss Army Man. So in that movie, was the dead body a mental defense mechanism to keep him sane and on the path, or was that supposed to be an actual thing?
I took it as him having some real challenges that finding a dead body was not helpful in him keeping track of reality at all. So I took that as being completely like made up thing.
Yeah.
So, and just, the human mind is a very weird and wonderful and scary place. So
it will fill in its own spaces when there's nothing there.
Yeah. So, I think that would be really fun to see what those guys could do with Ghost.
Yeah.
Put some real weirdness in there. Make it more than just some weird dramedy from the 90s, like put some real ass to it.
No, I'm all about it. I like that.
those are our real commercial quote unquote takes on Ghost. What's left now is the remix.
Remix.
Pretend Wesley Snipes is on screen. Wiki wiki.
I'm offended. I'm taking off my headphones and walking out the studio
fair,
right now.
Fair. So for the remix, yeah, this is just our take on just a really interesting approach to the material. It normally doesn't require a whole lot of thought process to come up with why we picked the characters and stuff. It's just a fun mental exercise.
Yeah.
So for yours, what kind of tone are we looking at here? What's different with the story?
It is a very different story, actually. It hits some of the same story beats, but it's not even the same thing. This movie is a melancholy romance, and for my pitch 2 for Ghost, the ghost is actually not a ghost. It's the persistent memory of a dead lover that is affecting your current circumstance.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
like an echo.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is like an echo, but it's something that travels throughout the protagonist's life, through Molly's life. So basically what happens is that Molly loses Samantha tragically, and because Molly is a very sensitive human being and because of how tragic the situation is, she carries that with her. And so when this next relationship begins, she finds somebody who is incredibly attractive to her because this person reminds her of Samantha. And so she meets May. May reminds her of Samantha. She is, say, sitting having a conversation with May, and it transitions into actually being a conversation with Samantha. Not a ghost thing. It's fully mental, but she sees so much of Samantha in this relationship, which is why she was drawn to it in the first place, that she can't get rid of it. It's persistently with her. So it's a combination of both actual memories of her relationship with Samantha and very disconcerting situations where she's in the present time inside of her current relationship, but she's seeing Samantha in this situation, and it comes to a head because May is like, I'm my own person.
Yeah.
I can't be this ghost for you. Like, I love you, but you have to see me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, Molly can't get there. And so it ends with her and her ghost as she is sad and melancholy through life, still having this persistent haunting of this memory.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went more of a direct, dramatic, like almost suspenseful love story.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. Okay.
Yeah, just a melancholy love story all the way through.
Wow. Okay. Definitely not something I even thought to consider. So I like that a lot.
So for my cast, it started with somebody that was a little bit older than perhaps what you're thinking. Everybody in the cast is the three main characters. I didn't cast anybody else. It's just the three main characters, and they're all in their 30s. But it started with me imagining the lead as Molly. I have Anne Hathaway.
Okay.
And that's because I can see in my mind Anne Hathaway smiling with tears in her eyes, just as an actress. That's a lot of her vibe. She's smiling with tears in her eyes, just on the edge of mania or just breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
I could just see that vibe.
That smile that's not a smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Samantha, I have Zoe Kravitz. I'm sorry, I have Zoe Saldana as Samantha, as the ghost. And then as May, I have Zoe Kravitz.
Oh, solid.
And so she just keeps seeing these two people as just flip-flopping one person. And this sad tone follows it throughout the movie. And so for my director, I chose Spike Jonze of Being John Malkovich, Where the Right Things Are, her adaptation. And because Spike Jonze has this thing that I refer to as dreamy melancholy that kind of follows through some of his movies.
Very much.
And that's the tone that I'm going for with this movie, kind of a dreamy, melancholy mood that follows throughout the movie.
I like that. There's that melancholy is kind of what I was trying to capture with The director's a Swiss Army Man, but definitely that's the only matching point with Spike Jonze. Like Spike Jonze goes into like almost like a listless and thoughtful kind of approach to that, whereas it's melancholy and also fart jokes on the other one. So no, I like that a lot. That's interesting. Like Spike Jonze's and that approach, yeah, that fits. I like that a lot. My pitch, yeah, it's not going to take a whole lot of time, but I decided to just like break this down a little bit and not make it as tropey as some like successful businessman as being the main character in this, and do it a little bit more grounded in what would work for this director and these actors as well. Is that Sam and Carl sell newspapers or magazine subscriptions door to door. That's what they do, and because nobody reads magazines anymore, it's not going well. So they have developed all sorts of different tricks to try to convince people to buy these magazines, including like implying that you get additional stuff with the magazine subscription if you were to. And they're scummy. They're fuck boys. They're not very good people, and they it's that gray area of conning where they are getting people newspaper subscriptions, but they're doing it in the least honest way possible. And so the change in the story is when Sam recognizes that they're short on what they're supposed to be paying out for this job by a significant amount, and it's all on his subscriptions. So he's trying to figure out what he did wrong to like fuck up his numbers. And Carl is like, he's been stealing money from his friend this whole time, and trying to like, but he's dumb, so he doesn't really know how to cover up the math very well. Or like,
and evidently Sam is kind of dumb too.
Yeah, they're both idiots. And so he ends up that he's going to get their weed dealer to to take him out, to which he's had to agree to buy twice as much weed to make up for the loss of sales from the one being stabbed to death. So that happens. And then Molly, his girlfriend, this all takes place on Long Island, by the way. Molly is very upset and beside herself, and Carl is trying to like console her, and also had always kind of had a thing for her, and is trying to like skate in, even though there's the missing like subscription pad that has all of his numbers on his sales in Sam's parents' garage where he lives. It's somewhere in there where also Molly is living at the time until she has enough money to move out on her own. So Carl is trying to find a way in there to find that, because that shows how many magazines he actually sold, and it might like lead back to him somehow. So he's just trying to like get rid of the evidence of the newspaper subscriptions. That's where, Willie comes into play, which is the same, this weed dealer that took out Sam is now like kind of fucking with Molly, and Molly's not having it. And she's like, she's not having any of this shit anyway. Like she can handle herself for the most part. But then that's when Sam realizes as a ghost that, he needs to get Oda Mae, who is literally his mom's friend that has always said that she has like a third eye and can like see into everybody's mom has that one friend that is kind of mystical in some way. Either they're like the white woman that has dream catchers everywhere, or they have like healing crystals, or they think that they're just like
the Shirley MacLaine friend.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Just a little psychic. So goes to her and come to find out, apparently can see ghosts, and May ends up helping Sam, and it follows a lot of the same beats, but it's in this really scummy fuckboy Long Island kind of vibe to it. So Sam is played by Pete Davidson.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be.
And the best part of this, though, is that that Carl is played by Machine Gun Kelly. And then, of course, you've got to have Megan Fox as Molly. So that's going to be a good time.
It hurts my heart that that's a thing.
It's really like, I just want to see Machine Gun Kelly and Pete Davidson just fuckboying around together, and with like too much money for fuckboys to have. Like they're not supposed to have that much
like
money.
Their real lives.
Yeah, exactly. And then we've got Willie Lopez, the weed dealer in this one, is played by Amaury Nolasco, who you might know. He was The one that had a grandma that made like an alligator etouffee or whatever in Transformers. He was the soldier at the beginning of that movie.
Huh.
That there was a bunch of basically racist Cajun jokes that he delivered at the beginning of that. He's a character actor. He's been in a ton of stuff, including A Good Day to Die Hard, Max Payne, Transformers. He always plays like the like charming but like hardened badass, like bad guy a lot of the time. So I thought it'd be kind of fun for him to he's got a comedic bite to him. So just to let him lean on that a little bit more than a lot of his roles let him, I'd be kind of
yeah. You have to have a sense of humor to be in any of Michael Bay's movies. So
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, we got Oda Mae. I forgot. That is where we're going so stereotypical. It's got to be Leslie Jones. When you said Leslie Jones, I'm like, she's
just that character.
Yeah, she's just more comfortable with it being like a Long Island mystic Leslie Jones as opposed to like some like sitting in a psychic shop kind of Leslie Jones. And then Subway Ghost, of course, Subway, New York, that works. I would love to see Tom Green as the Subway Ghost.
Wow. I've not seen Tom Green in a while. I thought, that would be good. That would be good.
Him to just pop in and you're like, whoa, fuck, that's Tom Green. And then he's just doing weird Tom Green shit on the subway.
You know who you mentioned before, who I'm thinking now is Mantzoukas would be.
The Zook would be so good as the Subway Ghost. Man, why did I not think of that when I was putting this together? He would be so much fun. And this is definitely zany. The director of this is the director of Big Time Adolescence, starring Pete Davidson, where he plays a scumbag from Long Island. And also directed I Want You Back, that starred Jenny Slate and Charlie Day recently, is Jason Orley. He also, the only other credit he has as director is Pete Davidson's comedy special from Netflix. So clearly a friend. And also Machine Gun Kelly was in Big Time Adolescence as one of his friends that like smoked weed with a 12-year-old or whatever that story was. But so I they're clearly friends from Big Time Adolescence with this director, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of throw them into. Ghost as just a Long Island scumbag story, I think would be so much fun. And even people that are huge fans of the original, this is so separated that honestly they'd be like, no, you know what? Fuck it. It's like 21 Jump Street, the movie. It's so separated from the original that you're like, yeah, this is great. This is awesome.
No, it'd be a lot of fun. Pete Davidson he's a fun character. I still can't fully figure out his vibe, but I do enjoy seeing him in things.
He's got serious fuckboy energy. But the thing is though, I think that he is so aware of that himself that it makes him actually less of a fuckboy almost.
Yeah.
Like he's like, no.
Well, he's also a little bit older now.
And,
and by all reports, he's a very nice guy.
Yeah, so. I have heard that. Yeah, I don't want to say this casting it and make people think that I have any issue with any, especially Pete Davidson. I don't give a shit about Machine Gun Kelly one way or the other. I don't really know much about him at all. Megan Fox, I talked shit on her years ago. I don't care. I like it. I care that I talk shit that was not necessary. I don't care about Megan Fox one way or the other.
Did you see her Commandos versus Lions movie a couple of years ago?
No, was it called like Rage or something or
something?
Yeah,
it was the I
Rogue,
guess it was Rogue.
Was it Rogue?
And they spent all their budget on maybe location or something. So when the Lions got in there, it was like PlayStation 2 Lions. Like literally, it was so bad.
Oh no!
It was something like I felt my heart because it wasn't a bad movie really. It's just a regular movie. But when those PlayStation 2 Lions came out, there's like, oh, Megan Fox. Oh no!
No!
Oh, my heart hurts for you.
Oh, that's such a shame. That's like in The Golden Child when they start to do like the stop motion animation.
For the demon.
For the demon at the end, and you're like, you know what? Like everything was great until this very moment. Oh.
Can we just have some more Betty spinning the wheel?
Yeah, right.
Give me the knife.
Please give me the knife. So that's my remix take. It's not as bad as some of the ones I've done. This could actually kind of work. So could yours, honestly.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
excellent. I like it. Mashups?
Yeah, I got a couple ideas. So
okay.
What do you got in your pipe?
All right. So for the obvious one that came to mind, I didn't even think about what it would be, but Ghostbusters, of course.
Of course.
That'd be quick. I've seen a sketch. I think. Oh no, it was Family Guy. Family Guy did a sketch of Peter busting Patrick Swayze.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another one is What Dreams May Come,
Nice.
where Sam tries to assist Robin Williams' character Chris as he navigates the many trials of his sad and depressing afterlife.
Nice.
I think that would be interesting. And then another fairly obvious one is The Sixth Sense, where the kid, Cole, replaces Oda Mae in the story. Yeah.
One that I was thinking of that would be kind of interesting is that you mash up Ghost with Casper. And instead of Oda Mae, you have a friendly ghost character. And you take beats where like the murder happens pretty early on, but of course it's not gruesome or anything.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, okay, this is a Ghost remake. And then there's not enough movie for you to realize that this is super PG. And then Casper shows up and you're like, oh, this is a children's, this is a family comedy version of Ghost where Casper helps Patrick Swayze's character, Sam, find his way back to heaven. And it's just Casper saying like super goofy, cartoony character stuff. And like Sam not knowing what the hell this is wrong with this kid. And also all the ghosts look like they were as people, except Casper, who looks like Casper. And it's just very weird.
And then you go to the front desk of the movie theater and you're like, I'm sorry, I don't have any kids and I did not realize the movie that I was coming to see. So can I have my money back, please?
It says Ghost, but in the tiniest font ever, it says The Friendly above it.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, so yeah, we got Casper. We've got Sixth Sense. We've got Ghostbusters. We've got what else?
What Dreams May Come.
I like What Dreams May Come because that movie does not age very well at all. Like there's some major problems with that I think would be interesting on a revisit for sure.
I have not seen it in a long time.
It's one of those movies I loved when it came out. And then for years I talked about it. The story is written by Richard Matheson, who did The Terror at 20,000 Feet. And he also did I Am Legend. And was a big writer for Twilight Zone back in the day, as well as some of the best horror fiction from the like 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And he wrote What Dreams May Come. That was one of his stories. And the story that he wrote is great. The Robin Williams movie, when I was a kid, was great. Watching it as an adult, it's very weird and kind of fucked up in a couple ways. Like his daughter turns into an Asian woman because he said that all Asian women were hot when they were alive.
Don't remember that. Oh,
so
God.
She's like, okay, cool. I guess I'm going to be an Asian woman because my dad thinks they're hot. It's like weird shit like that. It's kind of bizarre.
I might have to tick that one on the list because, like I said, I have not seen it. Like I know the broad beats of it, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. You could tell what it was trying to do, and it got a little close to it. There's some interesting visual elements to it as well, but man, it did miss. It did in fact miss.
There are some people that really love that movie, so yeah, it's definitely worth a revisit.
Hell yeah.
Maybe sometime in the future we can smack it up.
That sounds like a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
But for now, we're going to finish up this episode with what we always finish this episodes with is our trailer. So let's get some music teared up here.
Terrible trailers.
What is a ghost but a memory of feelings, incomplete situations that you wish were different? Welcome to the world, Ghost. Anne Hathaway is Molly, a woman who lost her love too soon. Zoe Saldana as Samantha is gone but not forgotten, and she lingers in this world as a memory, as a haunting reminder of love gone too soon. As Molly meets Zoe Kravitz's May and tries to move on and establish new relationships, she finds that she may not be able to because of Spike Jonze' Ghost, coming this summer.
Aw, that was kind of sweet almost. Like sad, like very melancholy for sure, but yeah, a little sweet too. It's like, I just don't know how to let go. Excellent. Okay, so yeah, clearly I have a lot to go against here. And I'm clearly going to just top your trailer so hard.
Well, you definitely have more room for energy.
Oh,
Just going to blow this sadness out of my nose.
yeah.
Honk.
Right. Yeah, there's not going to be an ounce of sadness to this one here. So here we go.
Sam Wheat's just a little fuckboy from Long Island that's trying to get by with his buddy Carl, selling newspaper subscriptions door to door to save up enough money for him and his girlfriend Molly to get a place of their own and move out of his dad's garage.
Dude.
Until one day he realizes, whoa no, where'd my money go? And before he knows it, he's a ghost. This summer, Pete Davidson is Sam Wheat, a ghost, trying to tell his still living girlfriend, Molly Jensen, played by Megan Fox, that it was really Machine Gun Kelly who killed him. Literally, it was Machine Gun Kelly. He's playing himself. Join us on a wild ride when there's weed dealing buddy Willie Lopez, played by Amari Noscalo, kills Pete Davidson for very little money. A significantly small amount of money.
Free magazines!
And the only way that he can get back in touch with the real world is with the help of the subway ghost, literally Tom Green. This summer, Jason Orley's Ghost.
Fantastic. Coming off the back of that trailer, do you think that if MGK wasn't in the picture, Pete Davidson would already have had Megan Fox?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, he's definitely her vibe for like dude she's into. So yeah, I definitely see that. Do you think there's any chance that Megan Fox is like, oh, not Pete, ew, but Machine Gun Kelly on the other hand, yum? No,
you have made your point.
They're interchangeable, basically. Like that's Travis Barker's in there too somehow. Like
all the gross dudes.
Yeah, just doing the thing. So yep, why not? So yeah, that is the end of our episode on Ghost from 1990. Tell us what you think should be mashed up with this. Tell us what you think should be cast for a remake or reimagining of Ghost. Who do you think should be the director of a Ghost remake? And join us on our social media. All the links to that and our other episodes, other shows on the Geeks Under the Influence Network are available at GUIPodcast.com. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell the world that this show exists, and we do appreciate it. We'll find you next time for another episode. I'm Mike the Hobbit.
And I'm Thandi Woodard.
And the end?
You little smack at a pitch.
You little
smack on the pitch.
GUIPodcast.com.
Mike the Hobbit here,
Lowdown Brown,
inviting you to check out Geeks Under the Influence, a podcast that pairs booze with conversation with good friends.
and a little nerd culture.
We get a lot of colorful conversation out of our episodes, but it is here for everyone, no gatekeeping.
Always level up everything we do.
We'll punch up, never punch down.
Exactly.
So check out Geeks Under the Influence everywhere you get your podcasts and join us or die.
Shut the fuck up, Hobbit. Welcome to GUI Nights.
GUI Nights.
Yeah, I am Lowdown Brown. With me as always,
Mike the Hobbit.
this is the tangential side of GUI.
This is like so many of those other shows that has the after the show bit mixed with a little bit of Baywatch Nights, so it's a little sexier. It's a little bit after hours.
Also while tying it into the previous episode of GUI. So look forward to that too, because this comes out the week after the flagship hour-long episode.
So make sure to check out GUI Nights, and when you're done, you can
Go the fuck home. Coming straight from the mouths of madness, I'm Lowdown.
I'm F.U. Hunter.
Do you love horror?
We fucking do.
So this is a podcast dedicated to all things in cinematic horror. We're talking movies, television, composers, special effects artists. We're gonna fucking cover it.
So if you love horror,
Embrace the madness.
Hey guys, Scotty P here with Smash. On your left.
And we are the Geek Fathers. That's right, bringing all the trials and tribulations of being a geeky parent.
So welcome to our world.
And as always, join us
or cry.
My name is Amy Bogard.
And I'm Mike the Hobbit.
And we are the hosts of Deeply Upsetting, where we use our expertise to answer your most upsetting hypothetical quandaries, such as what non-winged animal deserves wings?
And what body part deserves a secret mouth?
Which cryptid is the worst roommate?
These questions and more that plague you will be answered on Deeply Upsetting, available anywhere you get your podcasts and at GUIPodcast.com.
In a world of blockbuster movies, there's another dimension.
The dimension of schlock cinema. Join us at Beautiful Disasters on a journey into the fringe territory of B-movie abandon.
We review the flicks that are forgotten or underappreciated to give them a proper place in the annals of celluloid history.
I'm the Groots.
F.U. Hunter.
Your guides at Beautiful Disasters. Come along with us for a fun ride. May the schlock be with you.